What's up, guys? We're here at AMC Town Square with Chasing Cinema.
Mr. James Hsu.com,
and I'm excited this week. Joaquin Phoenix, Warner Brothers.
One of the most anticipated movies of 2019.
Let's go.
Can DC do it?
Joker.
We've talked about this many times. We've had many conversations about Batman, obviously because Batman is my favorite character out of the comic book world. How do you talk about Batman without the other Joker? You can't,
the arch
because
nemesis.
they're the yin and yang. They go perfectly together, and we've talked about it many times. Joker is one of the greatest probably characters that modern fiction has really produced.
The only guy that can even compete with him would probably be Darth Vader.
Yeah, I mean, and think about this though.
In mythology and
even
culture.
in mythology, yeah, absolutely. Darth Vader is one of the really one of the most iconic film villains, but Joker is such a beloved character that it's one of the few things that people are open to accepting changes in. If someone's like, we're going to remake Darth Vader and this is how he looks now, people would flip. You could make 4 different Joker movies and tell 4 different Joker stories, and that's cool. That's how wide that character is. And we've always said the Joker needs to have his day. Heath Ledger, I mean, we could go back all the way. Cesar Romero, who played it very uppity Joker.
Never liked Cesar Romero.
Never liked the old school stuff. The laughs, the jokes, the actual stupid punching letters. The very, very 60s cheesy idea of the Joker. Then we have Jack Nicholson, who introduces this kind of suave, sexy,
which I enjoyed.
little villainous, mobster-esque kind of.
I enjoyed.
Yeah, of course. Who doesn't love the 1989 Joker? Then you have Heath Ledger, who comes out of nowhere and shocks the world, giving an Academy Award-worthy performance as a comic character.
Win.
Exactly. Something we do not see in Academy Awards. A Batman movie winning an Oscar. To a villain, to a guy who puts on clown makeup. And now... actually.
Wow. You were so not happy with it, you just forget him?
Well, I will say, out of all the Jokers I've ever seen, Jared Leto's Joker in Suicide Squad.
Not for me.
Is just the least impactful. Not even because at least Jared Leto tried to make it kind of his own. It's just that he didn't really dive into the backstory and what really makes the Joker really good. And now we have a movie that's not even really in the DC universe. It's a complete one-off.
DC Black is what they're calling it.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that. Todd Phillips, the guy who made The Hangover, the guy who made War Dog, says, I want to make this movie. I used to make comedies, but now I'm in woke culture. I'm getting woke every day.
Woke.
Let me tell a story about society, about all these sorts of things, and now we have Joker. I'm really curious to pick your brain about this, because ever since we saw the trailer, we've kind of talked about it, and there's ups and downs, and every time we talk about it, so I'm excited to hear what you thought of Joker.
Well, to go back a little bit,
okay.
I've always had a lot of... comics,
yes,
and I have the Breaking of the Bat with Bane.
Okay.
I have all the old comics,
Nightfall.
And so Nightfall. Oh, wow, impressive. So
I'm a Batman fan.
The origin story of the Joker has never been. They don't have a. This
it's
is
been
his
retold
story,
and told. Yeah. Absolutely.
And then in The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan did it really well, where every time he
told his origin story,
it was always different.
Yeah.
So that's the great thing. So the idea of him having now his own origin story or a variation of it, you got to be careful.
Yes.
You're going to make a lot of people mad on a character that has this history that everyone's already used to, and this is what it is. And after now the movie is sat a little bit, I have a lot of stuff to say. So first off, the movie's phenomenal. The movie, this movie is so disturbing because every single part of the movie I felt was so realistic. This is the first time a Gotham City actually scared me. So if you look at any of the Batman movies, for me, I always watch them, and even in the Chris Nolan's, definitely in Zack Snyder's universe, they're dark. It's literally it's dark.
It's a very dark, gritty,
dark.
Yeah.
But I never was scared to live there.
Yeah.
It was that was more of the cinematography on that.
It wasn't what Crime Alley and literally why Batman became Batman was
exactly.
described as.
And this one is the first time I saw Gotham City and said, "Holy crap, I could never live there. I would be dead if I was living in Gotham City." And this movie, I don't think it's showing how we are as a society, probably.
Thanks, you're getting deep.
That we're just so evil to each other, and we genuinely are rude. And we generally do bully people, and we generally are this society that is just so wrong to each other that we drove this guy nuts. I mean, he had mental illness, Joaquin's character, and So he had that already, but it's like when you push people, like all these kids in real life, and I don't mean to any disrespect to anybody, but these kids that do these shootings and stuff, it's like this movie, like for me, I saw this and I was just like, it's this movie.
It's very daunting.
This movie scared me. Yeah. I'm not kidding. Like it genuinely is like it's not even a horror film.
Which is weird because it's not a very normal thing you react to it.
No,
you don't react normally though.
No, like
and you've seen some pretty twisted stuff.
Yeah, like I'll watch like 7 and. I don't know if this is good I'm saying this, but I'll watch 7 up like this. Wow. But I'll actually smile. I'm like, wow, this movie's crazy. I'll watch It, and then the clown will murder someone, I'll do this.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. I watched this movie disturbed. Like, I'm just like, because it's all real, dog. It's like, every single scene, and it's like, and I'm watching the movie, and he's walking up the stairs. It's like, every scene of this movie, literally, they're saying he's being tormented. Oh, and at the beginning, I don't even think this. Well, okay, that's a spoiler. Maybe that's a spoiler.
We'll do a whole spoiler section.
But yeah, so he's walking up the stairs at the beginning of the movie, to get home, and it's just like his whole life is this uphill battle. I don't know if they even meant that as a thing, but that's how I took it. As like every moment of this guy's life is just like he's disrespected, he's made fun of, and
before the character has this huge evolution in the middle of the movie, the character has a limp. But we're never told or even like insinuated that he has any injury. He's not limping because he's hurt. He's limping to get through life.
Yeah.
The uphill battle literally is just him trying to get to the next day. It's insane.
And also I felt so much of seasoning, if you will, of Hans Zimmer's score. Mm-hmm. So every time you see the Joker, they have that, and just like they did in Hans Zimmer's score. So I felt that they seasoned that in it or marinated it.
They definitely showed homage, but this score is definitely something of its own.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And then I also felt the cinematography too was very Chris Nolan's also. I'm not saying it was a copy. I'm just saying that I felt that it was in the vein of Chris Nolan.
In the same the realm of tone. It was it was very real based. Everything felt very kind of but dark and had this grittiness to it. The only time we were ever really getting color is when the movie actually physically becomes darker and grittier.
And that's the irony behind that, right?
Of course.
The Joaquin Phoenix, obviously, I would be pretty shocked if he didn't get a nom. I don't know, that's me talking, but I thought he was amazing. Like, he scared me, bro. And then, like, you see these people, Christian Bale does it, and he did in this movie. You see them do this, what's that type of acting called?
A method.
Thank you. You see them do the method acting in Jared Leto, I guess. I don't mean disrespect to him. I just really didn't like that Joker. But they do these method acting, and like he went down to freaking, I don't know how many pounds, but like 90 pounds or whatever.
A drastic amount of weight loss.
He's just like, and he's dancing, and it's like he transforms into, and you see this evolution of him turning into the Joker. And I won't say it now, but that last 20 minutes, man, just poof, 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 just slapping me in the face. And I was literally, this movie for me was the type of movie where I just want to tear my clothes off and just run around naked, bro.
Dang.
I was like, but I was disturbed.
But you were like running away though.
Yeah, I'm like running away. Yeah. Like this movie genuinely like scared me, bro. Cause like, and you see like Bruce Wayne, and I don't know if they meant to do like a Trump type of thing, but it's like this billionaire a-hole. Like I don't know, I don't know if that was their intention, but that's just how I felt that they were saying, and they were saying so much stuff about the media, and it's so true though, and it's funny because Kimmel. Because I never.
So this whole thing just kind of happened,
which
feels very meta.
It just seems like it was all on purpose. Where that I don't know if that was on purpose, but like
Kimmel was interviewing Joaquin, and
just
surprised
Google it.
him
It's
with
online.
a clip in which from this movie, which was an outtake, in which Joaquin had gotten really upset with the cinematographer who was talking during a scene. They had a fight. And he just kind of presented it and threw Joaquin off, and you could tell he felt really uncomfortable. Yes. It's a really awkward interview before that even, but
then I kind of felt now that watching the movie, now that I watched this movie, now I'm kind of like, wait a minute, so were you doing that on purpose because that's what the media does? So was that on purpose? I don't know.
No, I think there are things. Like I told you earlier, I think that Kimmel thing is a bit of a work.
Yeah.
I think there's some workings there, but if not, it's pretty crazy. But it is very reflective because this is the second time I've seen this movie now. Because the first time I saw this, I think my initial reaction was really on the fact that I am a person who loves the character of the Joker, not necessarily like to break down the movie. But I think this time around really helped me with that. But because I saw this movie before that interview and then saw that movie after the interview, it was very creepy and very like art imitating life or vice versa, if you will.
So yeah, just to wrap up my review though, honestly, this movie is so disturbing. I loved it. It's definitely making the top 10 of the year for me. I know. And I was honestly horrified by this
Is
film.
it horrifying in the sense that you could never watch it again?
No,
Is this movie you would watch?
I need to
over
watch.
and
Yeah,
over?
no, I can watch this. I mean, it's not something you're like, la da da, let's watch Joker.
It's definitely when you think of a comic book movie, it's definitely
it ain't La La Land for me.
Yeah.
But it
It's
ain't like
definitely a
that where I
rabbit
can just
hole.
play. But this is a movie where it's like if I have some friends, if I have any, want to say, hey James, let's come over and watch a movie. This is
You
a
got
movie
the
where
Blu-ray of Joker?
yeah,
You guys
like
wanna sit here and be-
that's I could do that. You know,
Yeah.
if it's with friends and you're just like want to watch a movie where you just want to get down and dirty, man. This movie.
It was, I mean, to me, like, okay, and again, it goes back to the idea of, like, I was the person, and you know, I'm sure you can relate to this also being a comic book fan, who's been like, guys, the Joker's way cooler than, like, putting on makeup. And, like, I've been telling my friends since 99, like, Joker's this really dark, great character. So, for me, it's just, like, finally, people are able to see the expansion and the depth that comics can offer. And, you know, we've seen all these movies, but we've seen them in still kind of in the iteration of these very fantasy-like characters, and we never kind of gotten to the real nitty-gritty of it. So I think for me, any comic book fan will just be happy to see a comic book character get such love and respect, I think. And I think that's kind of the first thing that I noted. Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, wow. The guy definitely likes to put it out there. In this movie, he definitely does. And luckily for him, it's what was called for. I think there was so much. I think we kind of had this conversation. We talk about it every week about this movie coming out, and you know, I said that Heath Ledger, it was his voice, it was his ability to kind of disappear in the makeup that really made his characters really prominent. Jack Nicholson, it was just kind of his wackiness, his zaniness. Very Jack Nicholson, which made him popular. How does Joaquin take the Joker and give it some signature? If the voice is limited, if all these things are limited, we've seen so many different variations of makeup. He uses his body, he uses his movement. And seeing the comparison to Arthur Fleck and Joker. Arthur Fleck is the name of the character that Joaquin Phoenix plays. There's such a shift, and the stairs are a perfect example. I won't consider this a spoiler because it's in the trailer. The first time we see, you know, he's like we said, he was inching for life, like just walking up these things. And later in the movie, this guy walks with not an inch of doubt in his body and literally dances and shakes and moves. And like the Joker does not just appear. He has an entrance, and he lets the world knows that he's here. And I think that, to me, was a really, really smart way for him to go. We talked about this last week with Judy as well. It's very rare you could have an actor who has a recognizable face and then put them in a situation where they could disappear. Heath Ledger managed to do it in the Jokers, in the makeup. You know, Renee Zellweger managed to do it last week as Judy, but man, did Joaquin really do it here. I mean, he really takes the whole... Well, obviously there's a huge portion of the movie where he's out of makeup. It takes a lot to take that celebrity presence away from an actor. And I think he does that in such a way that you kind of forget that he is this presence even without makeup. And that's really, really hard. Because even when Heath Ledger's out of makeup in that one scene in Dark Knight when he's trying to assassinate Gordon, you go, oh man, God, that's Heath Ledger. In this movie, the more you look at Joaquin, the more he stops being Joaquin. And I think that's very telling. I think the problem with talking Oscars, because you said you think he's worthy of a nomination, and I would agree. I think his performance is that good. I think there's just so much controversy about this. There's a lot that could happen in the next couple of months, and I think controversy is going to be a big part of it. Obviously, you know, Oscars have become very political in the past couple of years, and you know that's just something to keep in mind. But for me, I thought that iteration of the Joker that this story is trying to tell, Joaquin played it perfectly, and you know, I could look at his performance, and there are times when I feel like the character should be doing something else, but then I have to remind myself, like, Joker is this really unique character that walks this fine line between genius and crazy. Is everything he's doing really, really smart and we just don't get it because we're not on that level, or is he so crazy and things just so happen to work that way? And that, I mean, even in that psychology alone, that character is so intriguing. So, I mean, for a character to play this lonely, hurt, broken person and then be able to dance and thrust and laugh and try to tell jokes.
The Usual Suspect.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much there. Score. I mean, I think the music and the songs chosen. I think one of my favorite parts of this song is during that scene in which Joker kind of arrives. I won't spoil it because what you might think it is and what it actually is quite different. You know, but there's just a lot, like you said here, to get back to the meat and bones, because we could talk about Joker and his performance, but I think really here is why I think this movie, you know, as always, is that there's so much to grab onto. There's so much depth. We know that this movie was inspired by three main pictures. Taxi Driver, in which was a story about a New York setting in which a man who sat quietly in movies and, was kind of ignored by society goes crazy and decides to kill a bunch of people for a political movement in the 70s. The character's name was Travis Bickle. If you don't see the relation between the character named Travis Bickle and Arthur Fleck, just those kind of very forgettable, just baggage names. I mean, like that alone. King of Comedy, a movie in which a character would watch a late night talk show, became obsessed, ended up kidnapping the talk show host, and convincing him to let him be a guest on the TV show. That character was actually Rupert Pumpkin, played by Robert De Niro. Taxi Driver, also Robert De Niro, who makes an appearance in this movie. And lastly was Network, a movie that really, really talked about media and news. And there's no coincidence when we have hashtags like fake news and the media, all of these things going on right now, and this movie wants to talk about how we perceive information, how we're getting that information. But for me, the second time around, which made this so important, and we've been talking about this since the beginning, I said, you make a movie about the Joker, you have to cross a line in which that character no longer becomes relatable or sympathetic. And the first time I watched this movie, I didn't know if the movie was able to do that, because they do make Arthur Fleck incredibly sympathetic, and then he does do a bunch of things that would allow you to deter that, but they don't fully have you turn on the character. And I think that's kind of an issue, and I think that's a lot of the issues of what people are going on. And, obviously there's police warnings, there's army warnings about that. I mean, the U.S. Army sent a warning about this movie. And I think a lot of the people, their complaint was that they were going to make a psychopath very sympathetic, and that we need to kind of address things in a particular way. But this movie is not just about a villain. This movie is about a mentally ill person. This movie talks about healthcare, and if we are so worried about mentally ill patients, then why do we cut programs? Why do we cut funding? Why do people of that nature fall through the cracks of society and then are forced to be shifted and treated the way that they are? I think the movie is this kind of way of holding up this mirror at the audience and saying, like, is this the society that you want to live in? And I think it's very challenging in that sense. And then, obviously we could talk a little bit more when we get into spoilers about kind of where I think this movie goes and where I think some of its issues are. I do think the movie has issues. I think Joaquin's performance is 4 out of 4 here. I think the movie makes some stumbles and some decisions to kind of go back to some of the classic storytelling. Again, I don't want to get too particular, but obviously Thomas Wayne is a character in this movie, and not a character that I thought really brought much to the movie, and not a character that I thought was really defined or really as deep as he should have been. But my focus here were those kind of main points. And then, really for me, this movie kind of taught me about how we, because this whole entire time you're kind of taking this idea that the Joker is inspiring this madness. But throughout the movie, so many times our main character tells us that he doesn't believe in anything and everything that he's doing is not political. But by the end of the movie, Joker becomes a martyr for people who are ignored and pushed down and poor. And he's made the martyr by the people who wrongfully and foolishly look at the whole picture. They just see their inkling of hope and how they interpret of what they're being told. And these characters make him a martyr, make him the symbol of what they want. And I think that was, to me, the biggest message of my second viewing, is that I think the movie asks us, why do we look at the people that we look at and choose them to be the ones that represent us and speak for us? I think the movie also obviously really focuses on the ideology that, no matter what side you're on, there's someone on the other side that you need to understand their perspective. But I also do think the movie really did kind of demean Joker's actions and made him this character. But I think in order to tell that story, we need to look at ourselves, because we aren't innocent in some of these situations. So I think that, and just some of those other messages are really the things that Joker really kind of wants to focus on. And I think it wasn't until I was able to see the movie twice that I was able to see those things. But let's get into spoilers and talk about some of that. So, what did you think about?
So before I forget,
okay, yeah.
I didn't. So the very first time that we meet Robert De Niro in the show, Murray. Murray.
Yeah.
The first time he was in the audience, that was all fake.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know. Okay, so I realize this now.
Okay.
Okay, so that was all fake, and then
The woman.
There's almost Zazie Beetz.
Yes.
There's a part of me. Okay, I didn't realize that was fake either. The kissing thing, I didn't realize that was fake. Until they showed us that. So when I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, this whole thing's, And then the whole time I'm like, oh my gosh, is he actually in Arkham Asylum right now?
So my whole thing at this second time round was at the end was, how do I know any of that happened?
That's what I'm saying, because exactly. So at the end, he's with the doctor, and that he's about to murder apparently, or he did murder,
or maybe that was just what he thought.
Yeah, so it's like I'm wondering. It's like, did any of that happen, or because he was like, because he said he was in jail. He's like,
well, in the hospital. He goes, She goes, you remember why you're in the hospital?
Yeah, so no, but that makes me think.
And the first thing he thinks of is when he bangs his head.
Yes.
Right? And one of the main reasons why I thought about this was that maybe she didn't mean like the insane asylum hospital. Because he was an injured kid, obviously he was an orphan, he had to go through this, and all those things are blurred, but go on, I'll get back to that stuff when
I just don't know did any of that happen?
So this time round, again, I just kind of took it as, so the first time I watched it, the big thing was that she wasn't real. Like, their relationship wasn't a real thing. That was something that was kind of completely created in his mind.
I didn't even know
You could
that.
take the elevator as reality. I'll give you the elevator scene where she puts the gun up to her head and
I totally
kills
think
herself.
that's reality.
Yeah, if you want to take that as reality, fine. But then everything else that happens after
I think that's when he fell in love with her.
Well, that's when he's attracted to her, but everything after that is completely fictional.
You don't even think that's stalking her?
I think he follows her, but I don't think she asks him about it, and I don't think she's okay with that.
No.
But let me ask you this. Okay, so let's even get a little bit, So when he kills his mother, a major part in the movie, and I really, really enjoy that scene because.
Okay.
Go on. You finish your point because I have to.
When he read that, it said when he flipped it over, it said.
Yes.
When he flipped that over, that thing straight up said, "I love your smile, Thomas Wayne," or TW. So is he the kid? Because they're insinuating it is.
I think the more that I've seen this movie, the more I've just realized. Okay, there's a great short story. My favorite short story ever told is called The Yellow Wallpaper, and it's about a woman who is locked in a room and is stuck at the forest. And look at this yellow wallpaper. She continues to tell the story and tell you that she's being kept here against her will, and then she starts telling you that she sees a woman in the yellow wallpaper. And then you realize you're just reading a story from a crazy person who has no reliability. So, you drop a gun in the middle of a hospital. You're just fired. You kill your mother. And one thing that I pointed out, and granted, I'm not medically knowledgeable. Maybe machines don't flatline and go beep.
Oh no, yeah, that was
when you die.
No, they do.
Okay, so if they do, why didn't it happen?
Why was there no?
Why is there no any repercussions of the mother's death? Why is there there's so many moments in the movie where you have this curiosity. I don't know exactly when the change was, but back in the day, if I remember correctly, this movie I think takes place in 1981. If you locked yourself in the refrigerator, a lot of kids died that way playing hide and seek because of magnetic lock. Would stop kids from getting out of a refrigerator. There's a scene when our character, the movie stops to tell this moment where the character goes into a fridge. And while it works for the weirdness of the character, it really doesn't make sense linearly, except the fact that maybe it just doesn't really happen. Because in the next scene, he's obviously in a completely different place, fine and ready. I think there are a lot of moments in the movie that I kept realizing, okay, if you were one of the most famous people in a city, running for mayor, one of the most wealthy, most powerful, and someone threatened your kid with physical violence, I don't know, maybe I'd call the police, Maybe I would report him, maybe I would make a big deal out of it. If he then threatened and stalked me into the bathroom, I'd probably call the police and make a threat about it.
Unless you're afraid that really is your son because he's going to get a DNA test.
Or because it just never happens. I think the more that I watched this movie, I just kept wondering, what if all of this isn't real? There are things in the beginning of the movie. I mean, it's weird that there's a girl in the train at the very beginning of the movie, but yet after gunshots and everything, no one's ever heard from again. I think it's kind of just a little bit poetic how some of these things work out, and there are just so many moments in which our character vanishes from the present. There's this really great moment early on in the movie when his character is getting yelled at by his boss. The character just smiles and completely disappears.
Yeah.
Goes away, runs away, hides. And I just kept thinking, our character is so zoned out. Why would those opportunities not be there for him to fill those spots. You know, like, what is he watching? I mean, man, I wish I just would have wrote more, because there's so many, I think, opportunities where you could say there's room for us to kind of, another perfect example. A character managed to sneak past an entire riot, slip under a barricade that was police force to protect some of the most important people of the city, find a bellhop outfit, or I'm sorry, an usher outfit, sneak, like, those things push those realms of reality. Like, if you say, like, you know, this movie's very real because it does feel very grounded, that seems like comedy movies to me. One of my, you know, the big thing that they kind of talk about in the beginning is how attached he is to television and to movies. One of the first things we see him is we see him seeing this musical. You know, he talks about watching these old war movies when he makes this big mistake. But then as we go on, we start seeing things replicate movies. You know, sneaking in and putting on a fake suit is something you would see in a Jerry Lewis movie. Later in the movie, the character is running from an attendant in the hospital after he supposedly killed the woman he's interviewing. What do? Literally one of the most basic comedy gags in the world. So the more that I kind of took those at him, and it's probably just me getting too deep with it now, the more that I thought that
they do on purpose.
Yeah, of course. Which I think you could give more credence to the fact that this whole story isn't true. But if you do take the story as is, my main issues are with the Wayne stuff. I didn't like the Wayne stuff. I didn't feel like it was necessary. I thought telling the Batman origin story just kind of felt like forced and really shooted. The last part? For me, you end the movie, there's this great moment after Joker has done the deed on the talk show, you know. And that too, that alone too. In the 80s, I don't know how readily available comedy clubs just filmed segments, let alone were able to get it to you know, and that again could be just me overthinking it. But then the idea that this guy thought he was not funny, but good enough to make fun of and bring on the show. So the one show that this guy wanted to be on his entire life happened. Like, those things sound like a crazy person telling you.
Making it up, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's kind of cool, and I think that way
so
to
what do you
explore
think?
me. So, and like, for instance, let me ask you, did he kill that woman?
Who? The doctor?
The girl that he...
Zazie Beetz?
Yeah.
I didn't take it as he killed her, no. I take it as...
The first time I didn't. This time I did.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. I took it as the midget. He's like...
Just let him go.
Yeah, because you never did anything to me, and I'm not a psychopath. I'm not a crazy person that kills for no reason. I'm not trying to justify that, but he doesn't kill for no reason.
Yeah.
I didn't. Why do you think he killed Zazie Beetz? She was never rude to him.
No, she wasn't. Well, but there's no interaction there. So I think, and because he's had a bad day, and just, I think because of the insinuation of the gun to the head, and then like him kind of realizing, because the moment they tell us that this wasn't real is the moment that she's on screen. So that infers to me as a viewer that he's thinking about all of this and realizing this now. So I think that kind of made me just assume that.
So you think she's dead?
I think he killed her.
Damn.
Yeah. But again, I don't know. Like, maybe he didn't even, you know, maybe that.
Do you think this whole thing was made up?
I want to because I think to me that's just more of a greater Joker story. I don't think so. And I think for me, that's where the movie kind of stumbles, is that it gets too caught up in the Batman thing. You know, I mean, they have this really great movie that's tackling all these great messages about healthcare and all these things. We watch this character. So many and then it feels like we kind of have to shoe in the Thomas and the Wayne part. I think the reveal that Thomas Wayne was possibly the Joker's father kind of felt like a stretch, and we kind of felt like wouldn't be a real thing. Oh, the dude steals files from an employee in a hospital and doesn't even leave the building. Just goes and looks at him 2 floors down. No one's coming after him. No one's stopping him. No one's calling. The dude looks for his mother's file. You know his name. You go arrest. I mean, like, there are too many situations there that I think that work out too favorably for him to say that maybe everything that happened in this movie is real. And the only reason why we could assume that is because the movie tells us, like, oh, that storyline with that girl, she's not even, like, real. Like, this isn't even a thing. So yeah. I think there's something there to be said there. For me, I would have loved the movie to end after he shot Robert De Niro. The movie then cuts out and looks at all the TV screens and kind of has this really great network moment that's right out of network. And I thought that's where the movie should have ended for me. I think the continuation about... But I will say this, too. Second time around, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't think about it, like, why would Joker incite this violence? And we talked about how kind of we made him the symbol. But like you said, Gotham has never been the crime-ridden alley that people talked about in the comics, and how bad it was and why Batman was really needed. It wasn't some couple people were getting mugged. I mean, it was the scariest place in all of the world, and it finally becomes that at the end. So I think
Gotham City's never been that way to me.
Yeah.
Did you see at the end the super rats when Bruce Wayne is in the?
Yes. And that, of course, kind of goes back to the Sewer King, who is a Batman villain. I mean, there's a lot of things there, but for me, I wasn't. I mean, did the Thomas Wayne thing? And for me, the character that I know as Thomas Wayne felt very different than this character, and obviously, this is supposed to be its own thing. It doesn't have to reflect the comics. In honor.
And you know what else though? That scene about the Wayne employees getting killed, that is so true though. It's like because they work for such a prestigious company, we automatically assume these are good people, and we feel, and that's so true because it's so true. And then you have homeless people or people that die every single minute.
And that's kind of the line you have to walk with this movie too. You have to make this character. I mean, this character represents insanity and evil at the highest form. I mean, in one comic book, series, he kills a whole busload of special needs children. I mean, he's the worst of the worst. But then you also make him the character that says, I am the result of what happens when society and all. I mean, he literally tells Murray, the very last thing he says to Murray before he shoots him, he goes, what do you get when you cross a mentally ill person and a society that has no patience, no understanding, and no help? I mean, that's literally what the character's saying. And I think those are all things to really look into. There's this huge...
that was an homage to... that entire scene is an homage to Killing Joke.
Yeah. I mean...
The talk show part.
Yeah. I mean, that and there's just so much there for you to kind of really dive in. I mean, there's no coincidence that the one thing we go and see is a movie by Charlie Chaplin, Modern Times, one of my favorite films of all time. Which tells the story about a man who cannot adapt to society's movement and technology. A poor man who no longer can connect with rich culture. Like, that's a Chaplin movie. That's a very silly movie, but that movie's talking about rich and poor themes. It's talking about the same thing that Joker talks about. And it's just interesting how blindly we assume these things are just modern. This movie works now, and chances are, unfortunately, it'll work in 20 years because this divide in the way that the media portrays things and the way that we put people in those situations, all of those things create this conflict that we have. And it just becomes a point where we have to say, like, eventually, and that's the thing, it's hard to talk about because we're no longer talking about a movie because we really do have to kind of consider the acts and the things that are happening on in the world, especially in our country right now. The movie has to be art and tell its story, and I think it does, and I don't think they defend the character. I don't think they defend murder or criminal actions. I just think they remind us that stories are much bigger than our side. And I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. Obviously there are crimes and horrible things. Again, not to, that we have to look at, but I think there's just always more there. And I think that the Joker reminds us that. And, there's just so much good here. I think that this is a great movie for people to explore, a great character study, a great homage, just a well-made film. I think a really great...
Todd Phillips, man.
Yeah, Todd, and I think he's growing as a storyteller, and I think it's good. I don't think it's the best movie of the year. I don't think it's the greatest thing I've seen. But, I'm really...
You'll make your top 10?
As of right now, yeah. And
did you see the
even
Clint
though
Eastwood
I don't
trailer
have
today?
No.
Oh my god, that looked good.
Even though I don't have a top 10 even really yet, because I'm still compiling, I'm still catching up on stuff. I think this movie will be on there just because of that ability, to have so much to talk about and so much to really dive into, the performance and the score. I mean, there are these few moments in the movie. There's this great moment. Joker is all maked up. He's in the train. He's running from police. And what does he decide to do? He puts on a mask. Puts on this clown mask to hide. And, what does Arthur Fleck do in the moments where he is completely lost? He dances. He lets himself go, and he just does these beautiful moments. We talked about movement. He just lets himself be. In the final moments, Joker has this mask. He pulls it off. He throws it in the trash after he realizes what he's done, all these events that he's occurred, and he realizes he doesn't need to wear the mask anymore because that's really him. And to me, like, that's a really powerful. That's like a big moment for not only me but like that character. Like, it's such a great, like, yes, like, man, like, what a great moment in telling a story of a character.
right before that blood scene though, dude, for me that was just like, wow, what the freak, dude. He literally transformed officially into the Joker, and it sunk
there's
it all
so many
in.
Of those great,
it all
there's so
in.
many of those great moments of just like taking off the symbolism of him dancing and moving and just letting himself be, and that to me was just the body movement spoke volumes, and I hope people really kind of pay attention to that when they're watching the movie.
Bravo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next week, Will Smith is back.
Gemini Man in double doses. The one thing Hollywood needed more of is Will Smith, so why not make a movie with two of them?
Why not? He already hit $1 billion this year. Let's see if this new film can do another $1 billion.
And if you're not into that, we also have The Addams Family, the animated movie about the creepiest family in town. And then also, what happens if your phone was your worst enemy?
What?
Jexy. A movie that's kind of like about an evil Siri.
Yeah.
It's like Brightburn for Siri.
Yeah. I won't be watching it.
Join us here next week at AMC.
Gemini Man.
Because it's going to be a great time. Text us guy at
702-348-5618.
Comment below, let us know.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on.
That movie was heavy. Woo.
Very heavy.
Woo.
Very good stuff. Stay safe.
Slow
watch
burn,
movies.
but you'll love it.
Celebrate art. And yeah.
JasonCinema.com's known as
The Film Lovers website.